Coinbase just announced that they are going to be offering a credit card with 4% cash back, depending on how much assets you already have with them. And to this, I think, yeah, there's nothing better than putting a bunch of money in the world's #1 hacking target. But more on that in a second. Welcome to Cryptocurrents, the weekly podcast of people actually working in crypto, talking about everything you need to know in crypto. No FOMO, no shilling. Think of us like a great game of Words with Friends. We're fun, we're easy, you get to hang out with us 20 minutes a week, and we make you smarter for it. Today I'm joined by Kale from the Encrypt team.
What's up?
And Katya from the Mew team.
Hi Vince, it's good to be back.
Welcome back. We're excited to have you back. We missed you terribly. So we'll talk about the Coinbase credit card here in a little bit because I'm really excited to back on that. But let's instead start off with talking about, in the last week or so, we've seen a bunch of different crypto projects being banned off Twitter, X, whatever it is you want to call it. This includes Pump.Fun. There's Kale, talk to me about this. How are you feeling about crypto Twitter shaking things up?
It's kind of scary, to be honest. So we're filming this on June 18th. This just happened like 2 days ago on Monday. Mm-hmm. So people are still trying to figure out exactly what happened, like why all these Twitter accounts got banned. It started with just Pump Fun and the founder Elon. And then after those two were, well, I say banned, but it was suspended, temporarily suspended. People noticed that like a bunch of other accounts were banned as well. And so at this point, a few days in, people are speculating that some of the accounts that got suspended were due, the suspensions were linked to like API violations, trying to do things on the Twitter API backend without paying for it. But also there's like word on the street is there's backdoor deals going on to unlock your banned account.
I mean, Twitter's got to make money somehow.
True, dude. And like a lot of these employees, I mean, supposedly they're making money to unban these accounts. And the founder of Pump Fun was unbanned like less than 24 hours after.
I didn't know that. I didn't know there was an update on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Something fishy's going on. I don't really know exactly what it is yet.
I mean, I'll be intrigued if it's related to API, just because that does kind of indicate that maybe they're trying to do something sus, which is a bummer. I kind of was hoping that this was going to be coming from, a place of trying to clean up Twitter, trying to get rid of maybe some bad actors, some of these pump-a-dump schemes. But maybe that's not right, because we still see a zillion different bots with their little blue check marks because they're paying Elon that $5 a month, which is a bummer. Katya, what are your thoughts?
So one of the first things that I thought about when I saw that news is it's really interesting to me how, despite a number of projects that have tried to do this, crypto Twitter has failed to migrate to a decentralized social platform.
Farcaster, Mastodon, so many lie in ruins at the side of the road.
What was a Lens?
Yeah,
there was
Farcaster
Lens.
got a lot of money too.
If we sat here and tried, we could probably come up with 10 different protocols that were hailing, we're going to be the decentralized Twitter for years, since 6 years ago. This has been going on for a while, and just never happened. And I mean, I understand everything, like why, the network effects and all of that stuff, of course. But given how important decentralization is to the crypto space, to a lot of actors in the crypto space, to how much we yap about it, kind of like how the self-custody, don't put your money into this. I guess it's kind of surprising and disappointing to me that the community has not been able to just move over. I guess it's because some things like Farcaster have been at some point successful in just getting the community to talk just to each other within those platforms. But of course, if you're a project that's trying to grow, to make money, whatever, you don't just want to talk to other crypto people. You want to talk to people who have not been onboarded yet, and they're not going to go to this other platform. And so we end up, here where we are, where everybody is dependent on the centralized owner of the platform, who is in this case in an additional plot twist, Elon Musk now, and the whole thing. So it's basically like, I don't know, like, you read about medieval times when people lived in the monarchy, and the king liked the color pink and liked horses, and that's what the whole thing was about, and you had to and here we are,
the pink horse era came right after Jacobean England. I remember.
Indeed, as you remember.
Yes.
From European history.
From the history books.
So it's kind of like, here we are, where they can just do it and not even explain why. We may never know why. And they may not need a reason. Maybe they had a reason for this, and it will emerge, and they will say, okay, everybody who's doing this wrong has to do it right, and whatever. Or maybe it's just like an exercise in like, just because we can, and they can. So we don't really, we haven't, as a community, as a crypto community, we haven't built up a recourse and been able, like, I guess people can go over and post on Farcaster, but it's not going to have the same impact.
No. Yeah. No.
And so, so you are kind of stuck. So.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. Like, if you want to reach people outside of crypto, you have to go where they are, which unfortunately is Twitter, despite it just, for me, going downhill ever since the acquisition. But I guess we're kind of stuck with this for now. But it'll be interesting to see if we do hear, and we'll make sure to cover if more reasons come out why these bans occurred and why the reinstatements also occurred. But moving on, so Kraken, with their own little version of Base called Ink, announced that they are going to be launching a Ink token. Kale, you are the king of tokens. Talk to me about the Ink token.
Bro, I love Kraken. So this is straight out of their announcement article. Quote unquote, it says, the Ink Foundation, so they're releasing a token. This is regarding their token that they're about to release. The Ink Foundation will mint a fixed supply of 1 billion Ink tokens. The supply will be permanently capped and not subject to change via governance. So already off the bat, that's kind of cool, I think, because most L2s or like protocols that end up launching a token, they'll release it with like some vesting schedule that lasts over some time and like all these weird tokenomics so that the team is able to profit here and there. And maybe there are hidden tokenomics in this that I'm not seeing, where Kraken is just going to rug us all. But I mean, who knows, but from what I'm understanding, it seems pretty dope. They kind of took like the Bitcoin concept of like, this is how many tokens there are. There will never be any more. And apparently they're like building out a whole DeFi stack on top of Ink Chain. Oh yeah,
and
powered by Aave.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I'm excited to see where Ink Chain is going to go with this. I've always been like a way bigger fan of Kraken than Coinbase, and Ink is already looking like way cooler than Base did after the first 6 months. So
why have you been always a bigger fan of Kraken than Coinbase?
Cooler name.
Well, wait, what, Vince?
Cooler
Fair.
name.
Yep. Cooler name, cooler color. But it was when I first got into crypto in 2020, and I was like figuring out what exchange to use to on-ramp. Basically, everything I read about Kraken was like just golden, just beautiful to hear. Like they're the most secure. I don't know. They just were like the most secure overall in general. They like weren't hacked prior to that.
So technicals and vibes. That's what convinced you Kraken was the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And then over time, it's like I've definitely felt validated, because like Coinbase is doing all type of weird stuff. They sponsored the military
True.
recently. So it's like, yeah, Coinbase is like
the parade, that is, not just ubiquitous military.
True.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Overall, Kraken is just, that's where the vibe is at.
Do you think that, because obviously this is clearly Kraken's attempt to go against Base Chain, right? Am I wrong in that assessment?
I would say so, yeah.
Do you think having tokenomics is going to be what sways the people that are building on Base to kind of leave Base?
I think so, because I mentioned in the last episode or a recent episode that like I think Base is trying to position themselves as like the normie Ethereum. This is like, is Ethereum too expensive for you? Come to Base, blah, blah, blah. And they have like the whole Coinbase marketing machine behind them.
Yep.
So I think like that's their angle. And it's very centralized, It's already, Base has been out for 2 years already, and they've had 2 years to like
Almost
build things.
3.
And
We're coming up on our third Base summer, right? On-chain summer.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
There's only 30, on-chain summers left for most of them.
Yeah, dude. And so Base is doing that, and it's like after all this time that they've been out, it's starting to feel pretty centralized. On the other hand, they've only been out for 6 months, and they're seemingly focusing on like a much more decentralized approach. The tokenomics on this token seems way cooler. Base hasn't even ever announced a token. Ink is like trying to build DeFi primitives with their Ink token. So yeah, I think if they keep, going their separate ways, then Kraken will eventually end up pulling a lot of the Base users.
So, bad tattoos withstanding, Katya, talk to me about Ink.
I personally don't have any ink yet, but either on my body or in my wallet. But I find it encouraging to see their collab with Aave, because I feel like Aave is such an established player with such a good record and a lot of respect in the space that, we've worked with Aave early on at Mew. I've met Stani. I just feel like they wouldn't let themselves be dragged into something questionable, or at least that's my hope. So I find that encouraging that that they're collaborating with this kind of and this first use case for Ink is going to be an Aave, some kind of DeFi instrument. So one thing that I find is probably important in the Kraken versus Coinbase and Ink versus Base debate is that Coinbase and Base are, unlike a lot of these platforms, are available to US users, and are primarily US user oriented. Kraken's, some of the Kraken products, so the tokenization, the stocks and whatever, that will not be available to US users, so that there's a difference there in terms of how you can utilize it. But of course, Kraken has the advantage of not having Jesse.
Shots fired.
So
there's
that.
Up, honestly, the Kraken team on Twitter is way cooler too. I'm just throwing that out there.
Not a high bar, but sure.
Okay, well let's move off kind of this decentralized roadmap conversation and talk about centralization. So JPMorgan Chase just filed for the JPMorgan dollar, JPMD, and is going to start issuing stablecoins. Kale, talk to me about this.
So they filed a trademark for JPMD, and in the trademark it says that JPMD is going to be responsible for a bunch of trading services, and they listed out 5 or 6 things. So people are speculating that JPMD is going to stand for JPMorgan dollar or JPMorgan digital, and might be some kind of exchange where they're going to be coming in and just eating Coinbase and Robinhood and Kraken's lunch. So yeah, either way, I hate to see it. I feel like this is probably the beginning of a larger trend of huge institutions just coming in and just swallowing up all the ma and paws.
The ma and paws.
Well,
okay.
I mean, comparatively, it's obviously Kraken and Coinbase are huge.
Yeah.
But compared to JP Morgan and a Fidelity and those types of players, it's nah, dude. Those TradFi people are about to come in and just eat everything.
Rebuttal, man. JP Morgan, the Fidelity, the Vanguards of the world are not tech companies. The Chase website is unusable. Their app is hot garbage. I am sus that they are able to move fast and break stuff and to gobble up, the Krakens, the Coinbase, and the Robinhoods. But I could be wrong.
mean, it's just a matter of money for me. They have the money.
They have the money, but they still haven't ripped off Robinhood's UX UI, which is still, a decade later, top tier, best in class.
Yeah, but they're starting now.
Maybe. I don't know. I like the idea of this kind of issuance of stablecoin because it does, if that is the route they go, serve to legitimize the concept. And so I think if they can help solidify the concept of stablecoins, then that's just good for the decentralized versions of that as well.
I can
it
see
just
that.
is good exposure across the board. But Katya, correct me, please.
I mean, I do agree, I think, with Kale in the sense that So in terms of which platforms are going to eat which platform's lunch, I think we kind of have to consider who are the untapped users, right? And what are they gravitating towards? So I feel like there's still a large cohort of both individual retail users and even more so institutions out there that have been waiting for a stamp of approval from something like JPMorgan, right?
Sure.
Like something they can understand and recognize, and will only move on something like that when it's officiated by this kind of like, it may be an old monstrous kind of slow institution, but it lends the legitimacy that these users or institutions were needing, craving, for, and they're just going to go, with the official kind of source of it. Because maybe we all agree, I think, that Vince, you use this metaphor of cars and Fords and, early car era and how like most people didn't have a car yet. So like it wasn't. So we definitely all agree on the fact that crypto is still, even though we talk about it every day here, crypto is still niche compared to the world population and whatnot. But I feel like in the US, the people who are going to be like hopping onto crypto because it's cute and because it's like a good app and whatever are all aware, like of it. And if they're not using it, then maybe they don't have the extra cash or. But kind of the old money, both in the sense of old 18th century money and old 65 plus money and institutional money, I feel like would be very encouraged by this kind of like JP Morgan officialdom.
I can totally see that.
Well, talking about eating lunch, let's speculate, can crypto eat TradFi's lunch? So Coinbase just filed paperwork with the SEC to bring stock trading on chain. This has been something that's been talked about a lot. There is a non-zero chance that Robinhood beats them to the punch and announces this at their event on the 30th.
That would be hilarious.
Which I do think is going to be funny. But talk to me about your thoughts on this, like, approach to stock trading coming on chain, with the expectation that the only thing that this offers is settlement, right? So instead of T+2 for when you buy and sell a stock and not being able to access those funds for selling that stock, if it's on chain, I could sell it immediately and then I have access to those funds immediately. But is this a good move from Coinbase, or is this them just grasping at straws? Are they going to be able to eat Fidelity's lunch? Katya, kick us off.
So before
we
go
on,
I am, yes. I feel it. I have a question because I actually don't really understand. So when they talk about tokenization of stocks, is it like, let's say company, XYZ has this much stock.
Right.
Are they tokenizing so there's this stock and then every unit of stock is represented by a token on chain?
Basically, yes.
They are equivalent. So when you trade that you're trading the stock. Well, I guess, okay. So my question was, or it's like some of the stock is regular stock and some of the stock is token stock, and they're separate trading situations.
Yeah. So how it works currently in traditional finance, if I sell $20 of a stock, I have to wait 2 days for that $20 to settle before I can then spend that again. And so that's what this aims to solve.
But if that stock is represented by tokens and I'm trading those tokens on chain and it's settled on chain immediately, but it's like a reflection of the real stock, does the real stock still need to be settled?
No.
Okay.
That is my understanding, is it's going to solve all of this.
Okay.
All of this.
So I guess my take
this
is
problem that I have never encountered in my life, it's going to solve this.
Yeah. I guess my take is that basically I don't have a very clear understanding of how it's supposed to look when it's
I don't think
executed.
Anyone does.
No, anyone does, but I do think that everybody at TradFi and crypto are intrigued by the possibility of just like putting the stock market on those rails and making everything faster and and wait until the stock market understands flash loans, and then we're going to really be in trouble. So
You imagine
because-
like trying to trade stocks and getting hit with slippage and illiquid pools.
yeah.
Could be bad. Could be
It
real
would be
bad.
not fun.
No, yeah. So, I guess we've talked about this before, but like I guess we are in a time where it's sort of it's like almost like for those of you who are old enough, which is not you, Kale, it's like the Mac versus PC ads. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
And I think like we're almost sort of like in an era where it's like, who is going to be better at this? Like at this money / tech, fintech thing. Is crypto going to be better at it and going to, take over? Or is this traditional finance just has been around for longer, has seen all kinds of shit, they have all the money, they have all the gray-haired dudes, so
All the
they-
boomers.
the boomers, and they're just going to be better at it because like there's this joke, and I think in my language, and like it's something like the rhinoceros has really bad vision, but at his size it's not his problem. So like,
I like that.
so whether it's going to be that kind of thing with TradFi, they're slow, they're maybe a little not, but they're just so big and they've just been around for a while. They're just going to mow over this whole younguns.
Kale, what are your thoughts?
It's pretty cool to see. I would buy stocks on chain. I feel like as time goes on, there's just going to be a larger and larger amount of people who keep their money strictly on chain.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in like countries where their currency is weaker than the dollar. I can see that happening where they like don't want to keep their money in a bank
Yeah.
or in their local currency. They want to keep it on chain. And for those people especially, like it can be super useful for them to like be able to access stocks and whatever is on chain now. So I love to see it. Also, I think it's like super bullish for Ethereum because they're not going to be doing this on Bitcoin or Solana or Harmony One.
They're
or
doing on
whatever.
Base. What do you mean? It's Coinbase.
I mean, yeah.
and the Robinhood
true.
chain that they're gonna. That's.
But even that
there's
is like
no-
indirectly bullish Ethereum. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I read a quote the other day that was Ethereum is a solution looking for problems rather than a solution to a problem, and that kind of resonated with me because this to me does kind of feel like they're like, ooh, here's a use case that we can be used on, and I think I saw the other day that you can now use Ethereum on Excel spreadsheets or whatever.
Yeah. Somebody built
Like,
that.
and I'm just kind of like, is this just kind of a marketing and PR thing, or is there an actual like capital U use case
Well,
here?
that's actually, that expression goes way back, and they would say that about that blockchain is a solution looking for problems, not just Ethereum. And
Yeah.
I think if you subscribe to that view, that's still true of all blockchain, not just Ethereum. Can you do this with regular tools? The answer is yes for most things, except for self-custody. I feel like that's the only thing you can't do with TradFi that you can't really, but
It's called a box under your mattress.
yes.
I mean, that's one way.
But I mean, like digitally, right? So but ironically, that's like arguably the least massively popular use. Like people are afraid of it. They don't really like to take responsibility for that stuff. Understandably, it's understandable. So, but I don't know. But I think it's like when the internet started, right? Like, and people were laughing at you have radio, you have books, and why would you? We all know what happened. So, still, I'm a believer. I still believe that the cases will come, and it will, it won't be a solution looking for problems.
Okay, fair enough. So rapid fire here to round things out. The Coinbase credit card. They announced this on their little one-day little conference they threw themselves. It's still a bit murky what's going on with this credit card, but up to 4% depending on how much you have with the company, which I think is very sus that they're not telling you how much you have to have for the Coinbase perk. does have a yearly subscription cost of 50 USD, and it is an ugly, ugly card that just says, please attack me with a wrench. I think this is a big misfire. I think it's bad. It's a cool perk, but also it's the number one hacking target in the world is Coinbase. You're exposing yourself to a lot of risk physically. You hand that to a waitress. She meets you out back in the parking lot and knifes you until you give her your seed phrase or access to your Coinbase. And so I'm just like, I'm wide-eyed about this. What are your guys' thoughts?
I agree that it's like kind of just like makes you a walking target. But also though, to be fair, like Coinbase has had a debit card in the past, and I feel like those cards and the Robinhood Gold card, which I have, thanks to you, dude. You referred me. You know, those are also like walking target cards. But
rebuttal.
As
only poor people use debit cards. And with a custodial credit cards are easy to revoke. You steal my card, you run up a charge, I go, that's not it. Bank goes, cancels payment on that.
But is the Coinbase credit card based on your self-custody wallet?
No, it's based on how much you have in Coinbase. Which if I can get access to your Coinbase and I can transfer that stuff, it's crypto. You can't roll back crypto.
But if it's the centralized Coinbase, yes, you can.
No, if I transfer my assets off of a Coinbase account to a self-custody wallet, like you can't roll that back. It's gone in 5 minutes.
I feel like a lot of times you can, though, because it's a centralized exchange, you know?
So you're saying that a centralized Coinbase account is less secure than a regular bank account?
100%.
Even though, like, it's all KYC'd and you provide the same information.
If I get your phone and I'm somehow able to open your Coinbase account and I say transfer this Ethereum to this X address and that goes through, which, you know...
But if you get my phone, couldn't you do the same with, like, Bank of America?
Yes, but Bank of America can undo that because of the T+2. Because it takes 2 days for money to fiat to go from Bank of America to whatever. And if I'm sending, your Bank of America money to my Chase account or my Wells Fargo account,
there's a buffer on that
there's
side
a KYC on that end that they can go arrest this guy. But if it's just some random 0x, then who knows?
Yeah, that makes sense. Could be anybody.
Okay, yeah. That's fair. You've convinced me. I mean, it's like, do you remember there was a time when they were some of celebrities, I don't know, they're probably rappers, I don't know who it was, but like they were selling like Versace or something did like a necklace like case for a ledger or something like that. You would put it. You don't remember this? It was like a thing, like it was like a bejeweled something, and you could put your like ledger into it and put it on a necklace and whatever, and people were like, are you trying to get killed? Like, what?
Yeah,
for real.
So yeah, I guess advertising, all best security practices are saying, like, don't advertise that you have crypto, let alone how much you have or whatever. Yeah. Don't post anything on socials, that can be identified with you. And that's actually the issue with the blockchain transparency that a lot of people in Ethereum and Vitalik and all of them are talking about, that, like, unlike a bank account, it's much easier once you know that you are a crypto holder to find out exactly how much you have.
Right.
Like it's just kind of closer to the surface of the blockchain explorer, if you will. So yeah, I guess I don't know. I thought it was really funny how Coinbase kind of, at least here in the US, like stands for for abstracting crypto difficulty, like making crypto super easy, making crypto like, and then they do this credit card and it's like, it looks like a big crypto OX address, like this. I thought that was funny that they went for like a super nerdy kind of like 0 and 1s bits kind of visual for the credit card. I don't know why, but like it is like a super kind of, blockchain code based.
I think, honestly, I think they're just kind of like crap. Robinhood beat us to a credit card, and it's, got a 2 billion person wait list now and has been like a big like referral engine for them. How can we catch up?
Drop the 4% Bitcoin rewards.
Go 4%, and I guess they did a flashy card, so we have to do flashy, but we can't just do like sexy flash. We have to do nerdy flash.
Okay, wait, real quick before we dip out. Katya, what do you think about the design? Yay or nay?
Yay. I'm seduced by the nerdiness.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Gross.
I like it too. Because, you know, it is like the Bitcoin Genesis block, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool as far as
No,
like the nerd
yeah.
aspect of it.
And
then
I
on
mean,
the side it has like the
definitely,
little thing talking about
definitely.
like bring down the banks. But it's just kind of ironic having the bring down the banks thing on a literal MasterCard. But
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
But the design, I like the design. Honestly, like, if I had the card, I would probably frame it and put it, like, on the wall, because I'm weird and sentimental like that. Just to have, like, a Bitcoin piece of history. But, yeah, I like it. I like the design.
But I mean, like, you know, at Mew, like about a little while back, we did these like NFTs that you could mint that could do a visual based on a specific block on the Ethereum blockchain and kind of like immortalize that block for yourself. And once you have the NFT of that block, nobody, you know, unless you sell it, like nobody. So like, you know, that's kind of, so yeah, for
Kind of the
people
same
who are
vibe, yeah.
sentimental about it, it's the same vibe. And like, I definitely prefer that over like a chunk of like gold flashy, like whatever.
See, like, the gold card I'll actually use. That one is, like, that one's slick. But if I had the Coinbase card, I would honestly, like, probably put it up on the wall, because it's, like, a piece of art.
Well, if there's one thing I hate more than being outnumbered on saying this card is ugly, it's ending this podcast, which is what I'm going to do. That way you guys can't keep teaming up on me. So thank you, dear listener, for joining us this week. We hope you feel smarter because you are. Make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you follow, subscribe, do all of that good social media stuff. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next.
Bye.
Bye, guys.